Michigan is known as the automotive capital of the world. With the 2014 North American International Auto Show now behind us, what are some of the trends we're seeing and what are consumers looking for in a vehicle? Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Joining me now is Jason Stein, the publisher and editor of Automotive News, a publication of Crain Communications. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure you spent days, weeks at the auto show checking everything out. What was the biggest, perception that you brought away from that show as far as where we're headed this year? Well, in addition to the buzz, which is now back at the Detroit Auto Show, this was the 25th anniversary of it being the North American International Auto Show. So in addition to the fact that the show is back to where it should be and that the industry is back to where it should be, consumers are really looking for connectivity. They're looking to be connected with their smartphones, with their various other devices, and car companies are really responding with technology in the vehicle that's making that process much easier. So a huge trend that we're going to see going forward as products continue to be rolled out and as car companies become more in tune with what the consumer really wants. Are we talking about more how you integrate your iPhone and your laptop into your dashboard, or are we talking about driverless cars or cars that drive themselves, that type of thing? Well, there's a little bit of both, but the one main focus is how do you integrate your life that's outside of the car into the vehicle as it's rolling and doing it safely. Now, there have been some issues over the last few years, of course, some glitches in those systems that have been rolled out, but that process is becoming more seamless, and car companies are really focusing on how to connect the consumer with the rest of their lives. And they're doing it in a way that's becoming much more interesting, much more dynamic, some interesting technology that's going to be introduced. And you see it with some of the niche players that are now filtering some of that technology into other spaces, what Tesla has done, what Ford has done, and Ford's going to take it to a much higher level as well. This is such a fun conversation to have because 2-3 years ago we were talking about fuel cells and hydrogen this, and we need to be more fuel efficient, which to me, not being a geeky car person, or to the typical consumer, that's not nearly as fun. Have we stopped caring as much about that fuel economy that seemed to be the big buzz a couple of years ago? Yeah, well, the price of fuel has not risen to levels that some automakers thought that they were going to. At one point, there was the talk of $4 and $5 a gallon for gas, but that just didn't happen. And so when it hasn't happened, the consumer has not really responded with EVs, pure electrics. So what you're seeing is that the internal combustion engine, the classic IC engine, has really been a winner. And because there's so much more fuel economy squeezed out of those engines, and when you have 4-cylinder engines that are turbocharged and that can get you great horsepower but also great fuel economy, the tendency to go to an EV or to a pure hybrid, there are players that are there. There are those niche buyers, but they're not coming in droves. Also, the conversation we've been having in the past years is about bankruptcies and coming back from terrible economy, and the auto industry has been struggling. Is it doing better now, and are they on the right track? Hugely, hugely. And you see that with the product pipeline that's coming, the products that are being rolled out. You also see that with the bottom line. So when you look at the P&L of these car companies that were struggling so mightily 5 years ago, that whole picture has changed. Balance sheets have been cleared away, and what's happened is the capital and the revenue has been reinvested into the product pipeline. So you see better vehicles out there now. We see that in GM, we see it in Ford, we see it in Chrysler. So everybody's really, the bar has been risen to a point where there are a lot of great vehicles out there right now, and there aren't really any stinkers anymore. And that's a great thing for the industry. It's a great thing for the consumer. It's great news for the consumers, and overall just the industry flourishing in Metro Detroit is certainly good for all of us who live here. High profits for suppliers, high profits for dealers, car makers. It's really a renaissance. All right, thanks for joining us. Thank you. Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Jason Stein. He is the publisher and editor of Automotive News.